Good evening, everyone. This is Trogdor the Memenator, and I will be commentating a Castlevania Dracula X run done by our resident Castlevania Dracula X speedrunner, KenshinTrek. Kenshin, say hello to the nice folks.
Welcome. It's a pleasure for me to be here. As Trogdor has said, we are going to do a run of Dracula X. This is a really nice game that I really like, kinda underappreciated. But I really think that the community is nowadays getting a little strong, and I like it. So this game is really nice. Let's hope to have a nice time.
All right, and with that, we'll go ahead and do a countdown to start. Kenshin, if you're ready, we will begin.
Sure,
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to do a countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, and we are off. Again, this will be a bad ending speed run, so we will not be collecting the keys, and we will be taking the shortcut to stage 4, the catacombs. But starting off, we are in the burning town outside of Dracula's castle, with a boss of Cerberus at the end of this. You'll notice right away that Kenshin is going to be jumping for most of this run, and that is because Richter's movement is generally faster jumping than walking. Careful jumps onto stairs will ensure the fastest possible vertical movement, and Richter does have access to a backflip that will be used on occasion to position himself for either damage boosts or just to cross over certain gaps better. You'll also notice that sub-weapons are more varied in this than in a lot of Castlevania runs. The knife, the watch, the axe, and the cross will all be used at various points during the run, and even a brief cameo from the Holy Water. In addition to normal sub-weapon usage, each sub-weapon has an item crash that consumes significantly more ammunition for an enhanced effect, and you'll see the first of those during the boss fight here in Stage 1. As we move further forward, you'll also notice that Kenshin frequently makes small adjustments back to his left, or whatever the opposite direction he's moving in, just to ensure that each jump lands where he wants it to. As we move now into the final screen for Stage 1, the Cerberus fight is less about avoiding his attacks and just more about your own personal placement for making sure those crosses and item crashes land where and when you want them to. So we'll see you on the other side of this boss fight here in just a second. Unfortunately, less than optimal placement from the enemy there meant that Kenshin had to use a few more crosses than he wanted to, but nonetheless, we are on to Stage 2, the castle entrance. Now, Stage 2 is where, if you've played other Castlevania games, you may start to notice a bit of a difference when running this particular speedrun. There are a lot more enemies in Castlevania Dracula X than there are in most Castlevania games, and those mermen spawn up pretty intensely as you cross the collapsing bridges and later on in the underwater sections of the game. This is true of a lot of the enemies in the game, as quantity seems to dominate over quality in some areas. A careful backflip there will make this little cutscene go by just a little faster with the placement of the run and walk, and we're on into the castle entrance proper. As I mentioned, there are several different sub-weapons we'll be using during the run. The cross is held onto for the first few stages because its item crash is just invaluable during boss fights. You'll notice that in many cases, Kenshin opts to simply move around enemies rather than bothering with destroying them entirely. Here, however, we'll take a careful damage boost to skip this room entirely, getting all the way up to that second staircase and moving on, saving about 20-25 seconds on the run. Again here, back boosting on the skeleton apes is more important than actually trying to defeat them as we move on to the boss battle here against the Phantom Bat. Some careful sub-weapon usage and an item crash at an important moment make this boss fairly predictable and difficult to mess up on once you have the pattern down. And with that, Stage 2 boss is done, and he dissolves exactly on time, and we're ready for Stage 3. Oh, that was a gold Stage 2. Well done, Kenshin. Excellently done. We move on to the castle center. Now, ordinarily there would be a boss to fight here, but Kenshin, going for the bad ending, is going to get to skip part of this level by deliberately falling down a pit at a certain point, and that'll be our shortcut to head directly to Stage 4. So in this case, it's just more about preserving enough health to get to that fall without having to worry about draining health on a boss battle. A little bit of expected movement here as we move past these spear knights. Only every once in a while do you actually have to kill one of them, but sometimes it's easier to just be done with it and move past them. This is the other underwater section I was referring to earlier, or really I guess it's moving above the water section. But here, knowing when and where to level your cross out will keep you from having to fight more monsters or reposition yourself constantly on these moving platforms. Beautiful double there, and Kenshin is through and on to the next screen with no problems. Another one of these rooms where if you have careful maneuvering, you can simply skip most of the room by jumping up and moving back to the left. Why bother? And with that, we are on to our shortcut and into Stage 4. We are now locked into the bad route ending. The catacombs present a dual challenge. There are again higher swarms of those enemies I was referring to earlier, but we also have this sticky movement slowing sludge down below. We want to avoid that as much as possible because again, this is a speed run. Switching now to the axe as a sub-weapon, that axe will be invaluable for the fight against Shaft and also later against Death, or at least Death's substitute for the bad ending route. You'll also catch a glimpse there of our first Red Axe Knight, an enemy whose movement will be very important to us in Stage 6. The backwards jumps here provide a little more stability for Kenshin on these collapsing floors and give him a couple of extra frames of recovery for when he clonks, so to speak, into the ground. Backflipping over the Neanderthal skeleton there, or homunculus, is very important because he deals tremendous damage. The White Serpent not so much, and we move swiftly on to our second to last room. Here we do have to traverse through that slow slime, and we have to balance defeating the mudmen that rise up from it, while also not bashing our head against those spikes. Those spikes, by the way, not instant kill like you would expect in most Castlevania games, but nonetheless we do want to preserve some health for the upcoming boss fight. Shaft can be handled without damage, and indeed if his movement cooperates, Kenshin will do just that, but it's good to have a couple of ticks of health in case we end up taking a backup strat. Part 1 of the Shaft fight is a simple enough affair. We toss axes right, we toss them left, we toss them right again, and then we move into Phase 2, which is just faster and faster tossing, assuming he doesn't move in a way we don't want him to. Perfect Phase 1, and we're on to Phase 2, spam, spam, spam. And that's all she wrote for Stage 4. Well done, and we are on to Stage 5. Another gold. Kenshin looks surprised, but he shouldn't. His movement through this speedrun has been wonderful so far. The Inner Sanctum has an Axe Knight here whose movement is very useful for... Ah, man, he nailed it too! Right up the stairs and we're immediately out of the room. That's a hard thing to pull off. Fleaman Alley as annoying as ever in this game, but Kenshin's movements with the axe and whip should make it fairly trivial. Kenshin choosing to preserve his health with a little bit of a back step there, no issues so far. We're going to switch briefly over into the holy water, and then even more briefly into the stopwatch, which we'll take into the boss fight against the werewolf before returning to the axe for good. Very cooperative platforming so far. Again, another important spearman skip coming up, so keep your eye on where you think that jump might be. We have to do a little bit of enemy positioning here because he does need enough health to be able to take the hit, so while this seems like it would be a slower, time-wasting affair, in truth we're going to skip multiple rooms by doing this. That looks pretty good. And we're through. And goodbye to the holy water. We won't see him again this run. Kenshin again here taking a couple of safer strats just for the sake of the run, and we've picked up our pocket watch to take into the boss fight against the werewolf. Now, werewolf fight, ideally, we don't take any hits at all. We may be able to take one sacrificial hit here. It'll just depend on what pattern she chooses to give us. Very cooperative werewolf fight. And with that, we are on to stage 6 and our substitute death, Carmilla. Still in green despite a couple of delays in stage 5. Really an excellent run so far. You can see Kenshin's quite pleased with this. Kenshin still being sure to pick up as much ammunition as he possibly can because the boss fight against Dracula, just depending on RNG, you can use 50, 60 shots against him between both of his phases. A safety item crash here that isn't always taken, but does make that Blue Axe Knight more trivial. And again here, careful vertical movement lets us skip the majority of that room. On this ascent of the clock tower, we can grab both health and, more importantly, the axe that we'll use for the remainder of the game as a sub-weapon. Oop, unexpected hit there, but that's no problem. Now these red skulls pose a problem because where ordinarily they would only take one hit, in this room they take two, and they have the ability to cause a death off those ledges. Careful backflip over the charging red axe knight, and that's the last real threat of this stage until the boss fight. These Medusa heads coming in a very predictable fashion in this room. There's that health I was talking about earlier. I misspoke. It's in this room that health happens, rather. And with our axe armed, we are now prepared. Oh, a little bit of a delay there. No issues. Alright, and now we are on to our expected boss fight against Camilla. Just a pre-boss prep room here with 25 ammo. You may recognize shades of the shaft fight here, because really this is again about tossing axes left, tossing them right, tossing them left again. This time you do also have to avoid the little option eyeball orbs that Camilla throws out, but those aren't really a big deal. And with with that, we are done, and say goodbye to any traces of a good ending as we see her dissolve. Stage 7 looks the same regardless of how you get here, whether it's good ending, bad ending, or I guess we could call it mid-ending. Castle Keep, a shorter level, really just designed as a way to get you plenty of ammo and your choice of weapon for facing the big guy, but there are one or two challenges of motion through the second to last and third to last rooms. These bone pillars really just require a quick damage boost through. Kenshin having a little issue on the stairs there. But plenty of health. Again here, just having to hurry up and wait on these vertically moving platforms. No real shortcuts to speak of here, but if they line up correctly, you can start jumping up. A quick potion here. Now in Castlevania X, potions not only make you invincible, they make you instantly defeat an enemy by touching them, which is awfully convenient. And we're already here at the second to last room, so let's get ready to count down Dracula. As a reminder for timekeepers, time will be when we touch the final orb. Fighting Dracula is partially a matter of guessing where he'll appear if he happens to teleport in off screen. Kenshin, if he's lucky, can hit him with as many as 4 axes per teleport, but usually 3 axes is what you'll end up getting. Notably, Dracula will not teleport on top of you if you are already on ground when he teleports in, but if you're jumping towards a pillar, he can choose to teleport in on the pillar you're about to touch, as happened there as Kenshin left the ground a little early. 2 more cycles and we'll be able to move on to Phase 2, which, just like Shaft Phase 2, is just spamming the axe throws as fast as we possibly can. This was a very decent fight overall. Dracula was very cooperative. Kenshin likes to finish with a flourish item crash on the axes here, and we will get ready to call time shortly. And 3, 2, 1, and that will be time. A 16:30 run. Very, very clean run from KenshinTrek. And thank you very much. I'll turn it back over to Kenshin.
Hello. Thank you once again, Traveler, for the nice commentary. Yeah, this was a really nice run. A mid 16-minute run is a really good time. I had a couple of problems in the stages, but I think that this was a deathless run, which is quite impressive in Dracula X. I really liked it. Some of the bosses actually cooperated a lot. I had particularly a couple of issues in stage 1. Apart from that, this was a really nice run and I am really satisfied with it. So yeah, this is the beginning of a nice participation of mine here. Because if you, dear viewers, if you remember, as a matter of fact, we are gonna have a second run in this time. This is gonna be Castlevania 4. So yeah, half of my participation is done. Let's hope that this good luck continues.
And as Kenshin indicated, stay glued to that seat because coming up we will have more KenshinTrek, this time doing a Super Castlevania 4 any percent run.
Okay, if it's possible, I really would like to have a couple of minutes to rest. I always like to do some rest, some stretching. I want to drink some water. So if you don't mind, I will come back in a couple of minutes.